Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Soul Focused Radio. This is your host, Martin Teddy Bear Moses Friedman, and I am here joined by Ragivah Mahdi, our CEO and co-founder of the Soul Focused Group. Excited to have another conversation with you, Ragivah Mahdi.
I'm excited too. As I said before in the last podcast on part one of this subject, that I was just so honored and privileged and felt humble. And when I say humble, what it just means is that I am, one with my own potential in awe of my higher self. And like you said, I'm so, how you said what how James Brown said it?
I'm so bad I could kiss myself.
I'm so bad I could kiss myself. I think just thinking about that, it's like a triumph to be able to say that and accept it. It's a triumph because we've come through so many hills and valleys just to get to the point where we can accept ourselves and celebrate who we are. And I know that there's so many people out there that have not reached that point yet. The journey has been to accept yourself, and there's been so many obstacles, and all that is needing really, as the good witch of the north told Dorothy about getting home after she discovered that the wizard was fake. And she laughed and she said, "Oh, silly girl, you could have gotten home a long time ago. All you had to do was click your heels together and say the magic words, there's no place like home. There's no place like home." And what she was just basically saying in a symbolic way, all she had to do is to fully, radically accept herself. Put our soul back together again, because that's what the clicking of the heels of our feet, or where our souls are symbolically. You click your soul together, you put your soul back together again, and what happens? You're home, because you make home everywhere you are. When you accept yourself fully, home is everywhere you are. It's not a physical destination. It is wherever you are.
Yeah, thank you for kicking us off with that, right?
You're welcome.
And it's a constant process of reminding. Like, we have to not just remind the people that are listening. People tuned in because they want to continue to learn how to be powerful, right?
Right.
That's why people tune back in. They loved How to Be Powerful part one. Now they came back for How to Be Powerful part two. And it's a constant process of reminding, not just the folks that are listening, but it's a constant process of reminding ourselves. It's so easy to forget. Like, I feel like Ragivah, we have been programmed to forget not only who we are, but to forget that we need to know who we are. We're programmed to forget that we are enough, that we're all that we need. It's the forgetting and the need to reminding that I'm really feeling right now.
Listen, what you're saying is a mouthful, Moses. See, the little nigger boy that I was programmed to be by this world, that mind could not serve Ragivah. So I had to create a new mind. A mind that would listen to me. A mind that would do what I tell it to do when I tell it to do it. And the first thing I taught my new mind to do was listen and get in alignment with the power that I already possess. You see, right now, all of us have to do that. The white guy that you were boy, or white guy that you were socialized into being, will not serve you getting into heaven.
That's right.
You got to create a new mind for yourself. And that's what you've been doing, working to create a new mind for yourself so that you can enjoy the power that you already possess. And when I say power, I'm not talking about the idea of controlling someone else, because that is not what power is. In fact, it's the opposite of what power is. If you feel like you have to control somebody else, you are not powerful. You are forceful, but not powerful.
Right.
Let that sink in for a minute. You are forceful, but not powerful. Forceful and powerful are two entirely different things.
Yeah, I was really feeling that when you were saying that too, because I know that what was presented to me as a little white boy, even a little white Jewish boy, but especially a little white boy growing up in the neighborhood that I did, growing up with Black kids, I knew instinctively that wasn't the mind that would serve me. And, for me, most of my life has been a process to figure out how to create that new mind. And to be really honest with you, and you know this about me, and anybody that's listened to a lot of our other podcasts, probably knows this too. But there's been some times in my life, especially, in my teen years when, I actively tried to just end it because I didn't see any hope for having a new mind.
Right.
Like the mind that I have felt claustrophobic and trapping. Right? It didn't feel powerful at all. It felt like I was trapped and incredibly claustrophobic. And all I could really think to do for a long time, Ragivah, was to just leave because I didn't really believe in the possibility of creating a new mind. That's been a long and I will say arduous process. And part of the arduousness, the difficulty of it has been not knowing that it's really not a difficult process. It's not about creating something new, but just, folding into myself, into who I already was. And, that has been a lifelong process, my friend, lifelong process.
I feel you, because for anybody who wakes up, because I think, we call the period in which you are existing in the mind that the world gave to you by defining who they thought you were or what they wanted you to be. Waking up from that is what we call, being woke. You woke up from being asleep. Being asleep is being in that mind. Being in that mind where you think, the thoughts you think are not in harmony with you seeing the beauty and the majesty and the greatness within yourself. So your thoughts were at odds with the truth about yourself.
Right, that's right.
And so it's like a nightmare. We exist in a nightmare that we live because our mind is not in alignment with the truth about us. So when we waking up, being woke means to my vantage point is that my mind is now up to speed with my greatness. I like the way Jim Collins put it in his book, From Good to Great. The opening line of his book says this, and it's so beautiful. He says that good is the enemy of great. And the reason why that resonated so much with me when I read it a long time ago was the idea that so many of us are aspiring to be good. And good in this world equates to you trying to be something for someone else. And as long as you're being what people think you should be, they say you're good. As long as you're following the rules that they think you should follow, they say you're good. But what Jim Collins was saying is that if that's going to be your standard, you will never achieve greatness.
Right.
Greatness is on the other side of people telling you who to be. Greatness is on the side where you being who you already are fully. And that's not always like something that people are cheering about. There are some people that's not going to like you. There are some people that are not going to agree with you. There are some people that you are not designed to speak to. That's okay. Stop trying to live your life like you're in a beauty pageant, like you're on stage and you got your bikinis and there's a talent show. Stop trying to live your life like you're on stage. Start living your life like you know you have something powerful to share and you come here to share it. Share it.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? And I mean, the fact that we get into that level of conflict with ourselves, right? That we are somehow convinced that we aren't what we are, that's what makes us want to leave. That's what makes us want to commit suicide, That's what makes us want to drown ourselves in seas of addiction, all of the addictions, not just drugs and alcohol, but all of it, sex and gambling and porn and workaholism and overeating. We will not do those things. All things I've done, by the way, all things that I've been addicted to, we will not do those things if we know that we're enough. All of those things happen because we are in conflict with ourselves.
Right.
In order to be powerful, the only conflict we need to be out of, the only conflict we need to solve is that conflict with ourselves, right?
Right. See, think about this. Think about it this way, Moses. We have a view of ourselves that causes us to want to fix ourselves. That causes us to want to add something onto ourselves. That causes us to want to take something away from ourselves. That's a view that we have. It's not a reality. It's not real. It's a view. And if we change the view, we would see something else. But we've held on to the view as if the view is real. It's a view. How many views are there in life? How many different ways you can look at one thing?
Infinite.
Infinite. But yet we have been stuck on one way to look at ourselves. We've either looked at ourselves through the Christian way, the Islamic way, the Buddhist way, etc., etc., etc. We look at ourselves through a certain view, and that view will have us believing that there's something missing, there's something not quite right. You are a sinner, so that's the view. Sinner is a view.
Right.
You can't take that view and look at yourself and not come away thinking that there's something wrong with you.
Hmm.
And that is what we've bought into. We've bought into it hook, line, and sinker. And all it is a view.
That's right.
It's like imagine you got a drawer full of glasses, like Sanford and his son used to have. Fred would have a whole bunch of reading glasses, and he'd have to try on a different pair to be able to see because he had, I guess, picked them up somewhere. He didn't even buy them. Mm-hmm. But our dresser drawers are full of views, and we are only using one view. We've been using the same view our great-great-great-grandmother used, our great-great-grandfathers used. We have not changed our view. That's the reason why we keep getting the same damn results. Because we are applying ourselves in the exact same way that they applied themselves, which means that until our view of ourselves change, nothing in life can change.
Let me ask you a question about that, because I think when you say that, I start to feel something, and I bet a lot of people are feeling the same thing. It almost feels like we're betraying our ancestors, especially if our ancestors had to suffer and give up for us. It almost feels like there's almost a feeling like betraying them by not honoring their view.
Thank you for saying that, because let me say this. Our ancestors died for a new view. They were fighting to give themselves an opportunity to have a new view. When they were living, they were thinking about what it would be like to see their life in a different way. Not for us to come and hold on to the same view when we have unlimited opportunities now. And we're holding on to the same view. They wanted us to stand on top of their shoulders and take a look at how different life can be. They weren't down there for us to come up and have the same damn view. They are proof to us that their survival of all this shit is proof that the view is obsolete.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm feeling that for my ancestors too. Even though my ancestors were on the beneficial side of access and oppression and racism and all of that, over time, they weren't when they first got here, but they did get all that. I think about my grandfather, my grandpa Cohen, and I've really come to terms. I used to tell a story about him all the time in trainings that he used to give me bigot lessons, that he used to teach me that I was smarter because I was white, smarter than black people, that I worked hard, that I was a hard worker and black people were lazy. He used to literally drive me around and give me those lessons, Ragivah. Used to literally do that. And I used to demonize him in many ways. The more I learned about his own story and the more that I have gotten in touch with who he was, the essence of who he was, I believe that he did not want me to have his views. I used to say that he would be spinning in his grave if he heard the things that I said now around race and racism. I've changed on that. I believe 100% that I am a manifestation of his dreams, that he actually was the way he was because of his external circumstances and because he didn't believe he had the opportunity to really grow as a human being. And he was miserable in so many ways because of it, even though he had material good.
Right.
And, so I'm really feeling what you're saying. I want to make sure that all of us can feel that. Even those of us that are white, we might sometimes separate us from the intensity and the emotion that you just had talking as a black man, in this human form and your experience. I want to make sure that all of us understand that our ancestors wanted something different for us, all of them.
I'm sitting here feeling extremely emotional.
Yes.
Because I'm channeling the energy of my ancestors.
Yes.
And what they say to me is that do not use them as an excuse for being a coward.
Mm.
And what I mean by a coward is demonstrate the courage, or what we are lacking is demonstrating the courage to see ourselves clearly
Mm.
and accept the responsibility that comes with seeing yourself clearly.
Mm.
And when we see ourselves clearly, we see ourselves as God. There's nothing else to aspire to in this world but God in human form. When we see ourselves clearly, we see ourselves as God. And to see anyone else as not that means we're not seeing ourselves clearly. So now here's the question I want to ask everybody listening to this. What view of yourself would cause you to believe that you are either less than someone else or greater than someone else? What view of yourself you have to hold to see yourself as greater than someone else? And to have to feel like you have to prove that you're better than someone else? Do you think that would be a healthy view or unhealthy view? What do you think? What do you think would cause a person to believe that they have to hold other people back in order for them to succeed? Is that a healthy view of themselves or unhealthy view? What you think, Moses?
Well, I don't just think. I mean, I know how unhealthy it is. I'm gonna continue to bring in the spirit of my grandfather. You know, Naphtali Hirsch changed his name. His name was Naphtali Hirsch, and I know over time I learned what he thought of himself and what he thought the world told him that he was nothing. You know, a dirty little Jewish boy, an immigrant, a dirty Jew. You know, and
Mm,
that's what people told him when he was 6 years old and selling hot dogs in newspapers to support his family. And I know that he got convinced that the only way for him to not feel that way about himself was to elevate himself over someone else.
mm,
And I know that it was the most unhealthy thing he could have done. Instead of aligning, he went to the same high school as Jesse Owens. You know,
mm,
Jesse Owens is this magnificent human being, right? My grandfather didn't align himself with Jesse Owens. My grandfather felt superior to Jesse Owens. Can you imagine that?
mm.
If you don't know about Jesse Owens, look up Jesse Owens. You know, incredible human being, what he did. And the unhealthy view that my grandfather had is that he was nothing, that he was shit, that he was worthless. And the only way to feel worth something was to find someone that he believed was worth less than him.
Mm.
That was his view. And it was as unhealthy a view as I can imagine, Ragivah.
Thank you for that, for sharing that. I will lift up a quote that I shared in the last podcast, and that is this: "What you secretly believe about yourself is the root of all your
Mm,
problems."
mm,
Because what we secretly believe about ourselves is really telling on the view that we're using to see ourselves from.
mm,
So for years, I saw myself from the view that I was a sinner and that no matter what I did, I could not be a sinner. And a sinner equates to being unworthy, not good enough. It's only by the grace that I'm good enough. That is so much a crap. That's so crappy. It's ridiculous. That's a view, but we've held the view as if it was all there is, not realizing there is a program. It is a program. It is a conditioning. It is something that have caused our mind to think that does not serve the power within ourselves. So now that mind is not going to work. That view is not going to work. And I'm using the term view and mind simultaneously. That view
mm,
is not going to work. That mind is not going to work, because for every view, you create a mind, you create a mindset, you create a system of thinking, a way of thinking, a way of narratives and stories that come along with that view. When you be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind means you've gotten rid of that view and you've adopted a new view. And with that new view comes new narratives, new stories, new points, new ways of talking about yourself. So, we keep saying we're born again, but we keep coming out with the same view. And that view of ourselves has been, we're not good enough. We need something on the outside to validate us. We have to achieve this, that, and the other in order to feel like we matter. That's a view, and it's time for us to trade that view in.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I'll bring in my religious and spiritual tradition of being Jewish, and I think the view that what it means to be the quote unquote chosen people, that we have adopted the view that that means that we have to suffer.
Mm,
And I mean, just think about that, right? You talk about an unhealthy view that suffering is a normal state. Suffering is an elevated state, right? That is the tradition in which, that's my lineage in which I was raised, that you are not at your highest spiritual peak unless you are suffering. And that is a perversion of what it means. First of all, I don't believe in the idea of an exclusion of being chosen. I believe all of us are. But let's just say that tradition of being chosen, the way I've had it reframed to me is chosen to be in connection with everybody else in the world, to share the universal spirit of God, of Adonai, the creator. And I just think about how that's held us back. It's in a sense, it's been almost like a disability for us to fully achieve our humanity, because it's a stuckness that I think so many of us are in because of all of the different views of religion that have been passed down to us traditionally.
yes, I agree. I agree that we've held these views as like unbreakable, as unmovable, as unchangeable, just as the same way we hold oxygen.
Right.
And yet we have not realized that views are tools. They are tools that we create in order to enhance the way we live, not who we are. There is no view that we've developed is designed to enhance who you are, because who you are is unenhanceable. I like saying that. Let me say, who you are
Mm.
is
Say it again.
unenhanceable. You cannot enhance who you are. What you can enhance is what you are. You're creating a way in which to harmonize so perfectly with who you are that you are able to feel the magic of who you are.
Mm. Mm.
You know what?
Mm.
When
Say that again, Mahdi. Say that again, Ragivah.
you create a view of yourself that is so in harmony with who you are, such that it allows you to feel the magic of who you are. Not
Mm.
only feel the magic, but you live in the magic and you know what your magic is. The view this world gave us does not do that. Was not designed for you to take advantage of you. The view that this world gave you, I don't care what it came from, religion, family, the view that this world gave you up until this point was not designed for you to take advantage of yourself. It was designed to allow the world to take advantage of you.
Mm.
And the world has been taking advantage of you because of the view you have of yourself. You've been making yourself available to be used by everyone else but you. See, here's the thing.
Mm.
There's nothing wrong with being used fundamentally. The question is, though, and the challenge is, who's going to use you the most? Will it be you or will it be other people? Will it be the world? The point at which
Mm.
we are at now is that we have been being used by the world and we have not been using ourselves correctly.
Mm. Hmm. In order to be powerful, it is not about us doing anything external, but it is about us using ourselves correctly. It
Yes.
is about us being in alignment. That's what I really hear you saying, is that we can't use ourselves correctly if we're not in alignment with ourselves, if we're not fully conscious as to who we are. That's a huge part of this process, right? Just becoming fully conscious as to who we are.
Yes. Yes, because being fully conscious of who we are is not the idea of you know everything about who you are. It is the
Right.
idea that the view you hold of who you are does not interfere with you being able to enjoy who you are.
Hmm.
So you can see the creative genius in yourself. You can see the magic within yourself. You can see the power within yourself, and you are not in opposition to it. You're not in resistance to it. You are walking the path of least resistance. See, resistance doesn't come from the outside. The real resistance is internal and is put up by your mind not being in harmony with who you are.
Hmm. So part of this long pause is just like, knowing we're running out of time again on this podcast, and just, I really am going to encourage the people that are listening to not over intellectualize what you're hearing, right? I feel like as I listen to you, Ragivah, I recall hearing you and other people saying things like this in the past and feeling like, well, I just don't know how to do that, or I just don't know how to give myself permission to do that. I remember years and years ago, like 10, 15 years ago, feeling like I had all the answers, but that the thing I wasn't doing was giving myself permission to be the person I wanted to be. I wouldn't have used those words at the time, but the person that I am really is the terminology I'd use now. But I remember, feeling like, going into therapy and, I get it. I get what happened to me. I get what, I see who I want to be. I didn't say I see who I am. I said, I see who I want to be, but I'm just not giving myself permission. And that's coming to me right now. That's coming to me because I think people can listen and it's still, it feels so simple, sounds so simple, but feels so hard to just give ourselves permission to just be as you're suggesting.
Moses, you just given one a very simple formula for how to be powerful, right? And what you simply said is give yourself permission to be. Now, I know people are listening and like, it can't be that simple. It is that simple.
Right. That's right.
It is as simple as you deciding to allow yourself to be the powerful self you already are. And then to make as a goal to align your thinking with it rather than you trying to align who you are with your thinking. Get your thinking in alignment with who you are, not the other way around. You do that by giving yourself permission to be powerful. I am powerful already. I just needed my mind to be in alignment with the power that I already was so that I can enjoy it. I can experience it. I can delight in it. I could dance in it. I could see that I'm so bad I could kiss myself. That's what I needed to become aware of.
That's right. That's right. And it's wild. Again, it's crazy. It's not cool, but somehow we don't believe that we have the ability or the right to give ourselves permission. I mean, that's just something else, isn't it? Like, how could we think that we don't have the right or the ability to give ourselves permission? But I'm talking about a decade plus when I kind of knew a lot of what you're saying or understood it and didn't give myself permission, didn't think I had the right to give myself permission.
Think about this, because we don't want to underestimate the effectiveness of programming a child before a child wakes up into his consciousness.
Right.
0 to 7, when we're in that theta phase and we are being down, all these programs, these narratives, these stories, these beliefs are downloaded into our subconscious paradigm. They become they hide themselves in our subconscious mind. And those things, 80% of those programs were intentionally designed to have you create thoughts in your mind that does not allow you to accept who you are. So the average human being in this world will struggle the majority of their lives with themselves because their thoughts are not in harmony with who they are. Because the thoughts they were given to think by this world were not designed to do that. It was designed to give the world the opportunity to use you, to take advantage of you more than you take advantage of you. As Carl Jung once said, he says when his students asked him what the ego was, he said to them this. He said, the world will ask you who you are. And if you say to the world, I don't know, then the world will proceed to tell you who you are. And who the world tells you that you are becomes your ego. So your ego becomes the point of focus that the world is able to take advantage of who you are. Through your ego, the world takes advantages of you. The world uses you in the way it sees fit. And until you redefine who you are and you create your own ego, this is an advanced class right here, and you create your own ego, a new ego, ego that looks just like who you are, then Lord have mercy. Ooh, you talking about some shit there, boy. When your ego looks just like who you are, in the image and likeness of who you are, the game is over.
Hmm.
Some of y'all
So,
gonna get that. Some of y'all at a higher level in your development will get what I just said. It will hit you. When you create your own ego that's in the image and likeness of who you are, game over.
hmm. Yeah. And if you feel like you don't get it, stop trying. Don't try right now. Right. Just let it sink in, because it's all tied into everything that we've been saying.
Exactly.
There is so much simplicity, and yet, our subconscious programming tells us that there's so much complexity too, and that it really is a simple idea. If we allow it to be simple, so many of us are programmed to make everything that much more difficult than it really is.
Right. Because see, what we don't realize is that when you read the metaphorical story, the analogies of the Adam and Eve story, and it says that God
Mm-hmm.
created Adam and Eve in his own image and likeness, he was really talking about spiritually, he's talking about their mind. Their mind was made in the image and likeness of God's mind.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it would be in harmony with who they are.
Mm-hmm.
When the serpent comes along and begins to confuse them because he lies to them about who they are. I'm gonna stop right there with that. But
Mm-hmm.
that's a story that has been given to all of us. It's like bedtime stories that are
Mm-hmm.
designed to get us to try to understand deeper matters without people really, explaining it, because everybody's at a different level. So knowledge is dropped oftentimes in stories to get us to continue to ponder over what the stories mean in order to open up our subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the nursery rhyme Humpty Dumpty. Humpty
Right.
Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men could not put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Humpty
Mm-hmm.
Dumpty is us. And what the
Right.
story is saying is that we are the only ones who know the real reason why we fell all apart. So all the king's horses and all the king's men could not put us back together again, because it's our job to put ourselves back together. How do you
Yeah.
put yourself back together? You create a mind for yourself that's in harmony with who you already are, and you will be back together again,
Mm-hmm.
because the world
That's
broke
right.
you up with yourself.
Thank you, Ragivah.
You're
I
welcome,
mean,
Moses.
one of the things that when I listen and have these conversations with you is that the answers are everywhere, right? We don't have to climb to the top of a mountain. Like, there's been different versions from different cultures of these stories that tell us really who we are. I want to share the actual lyrics from James Brown, because we've quoted him a few times, and I had a feeling I was maybe slightly misquoting. For those big time quoters that might be listening, there's like, that's not what he said. All right, so not only do I want to say it for that reason, but I want to say it because I want you to really listen, Ragiva, to what he did say. He says, "Sometimes I feel so nice, good Lord. I jump back, I want to kiss myself. I've got soul, huh? And I'm super bad. Hey."
Ain't that beautiful?
So he's even talking about soul, right? He
Yeah.
says, sometimes I just want to jump back and kiss myself. So for those of you out there, the perfectionists, we got the lyric right now. And also it's a beautiful analogy for what we've been talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Here's
go ahead.
something very, the irony of our conversations with you being Moses, me being Ragivah. So Ragivah
Mm-hmm.
is Egyptian in coming out of Egypt, Ra. And Moses was
Mm-hmm.
go into Egypt to deliver
Mm-hmm.
people out of Egypt, to deliver his people out of Egypt. But here's a different
Mm-hmm.
scenario. Ra and Moses are on the same page.
Right. Right.
So we're not just delivering the people in Egypt from bondage, we're delivering everybody from bondage.
That's right. That's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. And in order to do that, we have to deliver ourselves out of bondage,
Yes.
out of the bondage of our own minds
Humpty Dumpty.
and the ego bondage. We gotta jump back and kiss ourselves.
Yes.
On that note, I want to thank you, Ragiva, for
Thank you, Moses.
being so present and so live with us today. And I want to thank my ancestors. for being who you were so I could be who I was and becoming fully who I am. I couldn't have done it without you.
Right.
And I'm just feeling that really strongly right now. And I want everybody to just take a moment and, just take one really deep breath in before you just move on to your life. Just take a deep breath in, and I want you to think about all the ancestors that you know of that helped create you as you are right now.
Yes.
And as you breathe out gratitude. Breathe gratitude into your mind, body, and soul.
Thank you.
For the gifts that your ancestors gave you.
Thank you. Ashe. Thank
And
you.
amen. Thank you. And we want to thank you for listening to us once again. We are so excited and proud to have you on this journey with us, this journey of liberation that every one of us is on together. And we just want you to excitedly jump into what we're doing. Go to soulfocusgroup.com. Listen to our back catalog of podcasts. Everything that we talk about is the same thing we're talking about today. It's just different ways to get to the same place. And it's a lot of very powerful and strong messages from a lot of different people, not just us, but a lot of different people, and a lot more to come on that. Listen on iTunes, listen on Spotify. We want you to join us when you come to our website, look at our virtual offerings, and hopefully sometime soon we're going to get back to in-person offerings as well, so that we can build together. We want you to stay safe. We want you to stay well. And most of all, we want you to stay soul focused.
If you wish to support and represent the Soul Focus Group, check out our apparel store at our website, www.soulfocusgroup.com/shop.